Okay, so here is the problem. Having a job is very expensive, and the solution to that problem is to just become financially independent. If only it were that easy. Stay to the end of this video because I'm going to calculate exactly how much it costs you in order to make a living. Yes, your job costs you money. Now, the short answer to this question is that on average, I calculated it to be about $790 per month that it is costing you just to go to work. If you make less than $790 a month at work, then maybe this doesn't apply to you because then theoretically you wouldn't be making any money. But for the most people, I calculated it out to be $790 per month just to go to work. Now, let's break that down. The first thing, and probably one of the most important and most expensive things that you need to realize of how much it costs to actually have a job is your commute. Your commute is one of the most expensive things that you pay for in order to actually have a job. So if you have no commute, bonus points to you. That's part of the reason why I became self-employed. That commute, okay, let's talk about it. So the average commute, I looked it up and it's to be about 16 miles one way. And that's pretty crazy to me, but I guess, you know, I used to live in California, not in Los Angeles, but near Los Angeles, and many people were driving many hours per day in order to get to work, so I guess it's not that crazy. So 16 miles one way times 2, that is 32 miles round trip on average. Now the IRS, this is what I'm going to use in order to calculate how much it costs to commute. The IRS actually lets business owners deduct 56 cents per mile that they drive for business. So let's pretend like that is how much it actually costs to drive per mile on average. Now, of course, if you have a cheap car, it'll cost less. If you have an expensive car or like a truck that eats a lot of gas up, then it might cost you a little bit more. So let's go ahead and multiply that 32 miles of a round trip commute times 56 cents. And I have it right here. We have $17.92 per day that it costs you to commute back and forth, that amount. Go ahead and try something like this similar with your own commute. You know, if you drive 10 miles, multiply it by 56 cents, you know, and then you'll find out about how much on average it costs you in order to drive your commute. But for our example here, $17.92, and we'll assume 5 days working per week, that is $89.60 per week that it costs to commute back and forth to work. I'll go ahead and multiply that by 4 weeks, and that gives us the monthly amount, which I calculated to be $360 per month. So that's definitely the most expensive thing that's added up in here to our costs, that commute, you know, that cost of driving your vehicle. But the next thing here that a lot of people don't think about is the kind of clothing that you buy for your work. I call it dressing to impress. And I tried to look up the average of how much people spend on work clothing. And what I found here from an article was about 35% of respondents spent more than $250 per year on their clothing. And so that means that the majority should have spent less than $250. So I'm going to go ahead and put this at $20 per month, you know, average it out, divided by 12 months. And that's going to be about $20 per month for specific clothing for work. Now, if you're like me and you wear plain black t-shirts, your clothing for work is going to be a lot less. Thank you, minimalism. And then the next one that we have on here is eating out. Okay, so I called it a quick bite to eat because when you do actually go to a job, especially if you're commuting to it, it's not always that you're going to be able to bring your lunch. You might forget it some days, you might have forgot to cook, whatever it may be. Someone might invite you out to lunch. It probably happens a lot. It used to happen to me a lot back in the corporate world. But for real, let's assume that you're actually frugal and you only eat out, let's say, once per week while you are working. Just, you know, kind of those miscellaneous things. Like someone invites you out to work, it's kind of a business contact, so you kind of have to go or whatever it may be, and you're paying out of pocket for this. So each time you go out, we'll average it out at $20, and that's 4 times per month. There are definitely lots of people who eat out every single day when they go to work, but I'm assuming you're a little bit frugal and you don't do that. And so that's going to put it at $80 per month. And then of course, the more you eat out because you go to work, the more it's going to cost you, rather than if you were at home, financially independent and cooking all the food yourself. And so we're going to add $80 per month to our cost to work here. And then we have some other stuff here. You thought we were done, huh? No, we still have some other stuff here. So here are some other ones that no one thinks about. No one, okay, I'm sorry. No one thinks about outsourced activities. So when you go to work, there are definitely things that you probably pay for back home that you could have been doing yourself, but you're just way too busy, you're just way too tired. I get it. I don't want to do any of this stuff either, but I I still do. So this might be include things like lawn care. It might include things like housekeeping or even daycare, if you have children. And I can't really give an accurate estimate of how much those things cost, but I looked it up. For lawn care, it said of average of about $150 per month. And then for housekeeping and daycare, I know daycare can be extremely expensive, so I'm not even going to try that one. But I looked it up again, housekeeping, again, around $150 per month. And so that adds up to about $300 per month. And there's probably some other stuff out there that you are outsourcing as well, just because you're way too tired or way too busy because of your actual own job, and so you're actually paying for these services, something to do with around the house most likely. And so we'll put it at an estimate of about $300 per month, where if you were financially independent, you're living that F.I.R.E lifestyle, then you probably wouldn't need to outsource so many things because you'd have so much more time on your hands in order to get those things done yourself. Next, I know we're still not done here, but bear with me, please. We have other things that cost you just to go to work. Especially if you are a highly paid professional. You might have licensing, any kind of like associations that you have to be associated with, any kind of dues, like if you're part of a union or something like that. So you might have all these actual like professional things that you actually have to pay for. And I actually looked up the union dues, and it said about an average of $400 per year. So we'll put that at about $30 per month it's costing you. So we'll just cover that. That means the union dues, that means associations that you have to belong to, or licensing and stuff on average. And so that is about $30 per month that we're going to guesstimate here. All right, hopefully yours is lower than that. Now we have finally arrived at the total. We can go ahead and put all of this together, and that is where I got that $790 per month when I gave you the short answer in the beginning. Okay, so $790 per month, that's equal to $9,480 per year, adding all of these things up. So let me recap here. I gotta scroll up. So we had the commute at $360 per month. We had work uniforms, or just generally clothing for work, $20 per month. We had eating out because you go to work, $80 per month. Outsourced activities that you're not doing yourself because you're too tired from work or you don't have time, $300 per month. Licensing, associations, and dues at $30 per month, and then that all adds up to $790 per month that it is costing you just to go to work. So what are you waiting for? Become financially independent so you don't have to go to work. No, but seriously, if you're liking this video, please make sure you like it and give it a thumbs up. We're not yet done here. Moving on, we have unpaid time. So there are many other actual things that you are paying for that I did not even include in this. So it's pretty crazy here. There's lots of time that you spent for work that's unpaid, i.e. that commute that you drive. If it takes you 30 minutes to drive to work and 30 minutes to drive back, that's an extra hour that you are dedicating to work. And so theoretically, what you would do then is you would actually add that extra hour in and divide that into how much your salary is or how much your pay is, and that's going to actually reduce how much you really get paid for work. Okay, then you have time spent getting ready for work, time getting unready from work when you get home. So there's actually plenty of unpaid time that you spend thinking about work, getting ready for work, getting off of work, and that definitely eats into your actual net income there. The next thing that I cannot really account for in these numbers is your expected lifestyle. And so if you have certain kinds of professions, you might have a lifestyle that's very expected of you when you're in that profession. A really common example for that is if you're a lawyer. If you're a lawyer, how are you going to be driving the 2011 Prius like I am? You can't just roll up in an old beater car to your client's house or wherever you're going. Driving one of those cars, they're going to think that you're not a very successful lawyer, even though in reality you might have a lot of money in the bank rather than in the car. There's an expected lifestyle that comes with certain professions, certain occupations. And if you're working in that kind of profession, you might be expected to have live in a nice neighborhood with the big fancy house. You might be expected to drive the really nice car, or have like those what do they call them, the name brand suits, where it has someone's last name on them. Depending on your profession, again, you might actually have to live in an expensive part of the city in order to go to work. If you again, I'm going to go back to the lawyer, because lawyers usually work downtown, don't they? So if they're in downtown, and they have to have an office in that high-rise building, they have to work there, then you're not going to want to live out in the suburbs 200 miles away, because then you have to commute, and that's going to increase that cost. And so all these kind of things that come into play with expected lifestyle, depending on what your occupation is. So that can definitely add to your cost of actually just having a job. really what I'm hoping that you can gather here from this video is that it is pretty expensive to work. Not many people realize that, but it costs you plenty of money in order to get to work. And this concept, where I've kind of gotten this concept from, was the book Your Money or Your Life. It's a really great book. If you haven't read that, it's a really good book for financial independence and just having that kind of mindset. But another really great thing that you can do is watch a video I created. It is a full guide to cutting your expenses for financial independence. And that's really important if you want to achieve FI. So if you haven't watched that video, make sure that you watch that video. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm Zach from OnCashflow.com, and I hope to see you next time.